It's common knowledge among all financial experts that the only way to gain financial freedom is to save money. When trying to save money, I realized that I needed to find effective ways to cut my expenses down regardless of how much I was earning. If you've been aching to finally start saving money, then watch this video because I'm sharing 12 things that I stopped buying to do just that. Number 1. An expensive car. Owning a car is the second biggest expense the average American owns. So it should be no surprise that finding ways to cut costs is going to make a difference. There are two things to consider when it comes to an expensive car. Firstly, the cost to maintain the car, and the price of the car itself. For example, an old beaten-down car may be considered expensive because of how much it costs to maintain. But a high-end vehicle can also be expensive simply due to how new it is. The sad reality is that cars don't usually appreciate value, but get cheaper as they get older. With that in mind, it's best to aim for a reliable car and maintain it for as long as possible. I've known people who've had cars for over 20 years just because of good maintenance. In fact, I like to pick reliable brands like Honda or Toyota, and I've managed to keep my Toyota up and running for a decade already. Number 2. Disposable paper products. If you're going to spend money, try to avoid single-use items. The problem is that since the item is single-use, you're effectively spending your money for one use, but that's not the case for many items. For example, you don't usually wear a shirt or a pair of jeans just once, but several times. I've had a pair of running shoes that I've easily worn over 100 times, and still counting, which basically reduced the price per use to quite a bit under $1. Typically, products like paper products, cleaning supplies, paper towels, and napkins fall into single use and are easily avoided. Firstly, most people have dishware at home that works out just fine for most purposes. Many cleaning supplies can be made at home, and you can stick to the general purpose version. And a quick swap to cloth napkins and rags can make a huge difference in cleaning. Not to mention that avoiding single use is great for the environment. Number 3. The latest phone. Having a new phone is often a statement to show how trendy you are, but you pay the price for it. I was fortunate enough to realize at a young age that a phone was really just for utility. For me, if the phone worked, that's good enough, and it's managed to save me a ton of money over the years, even when the budget was tight. For those who are old enough, there was a time when BlackBerry and Nokia phones were all the rave, but who remembers them now? It's likely some of you watching this video have never even heard of the brand before. Number 4. Books. When I really started reading, the feeling of having a book in my hand, finishing it, and buying a new one became very thrilling. I love the feeling of growing my library, but I was also shrinking my cash reserves fast. When you're spending $20 per book a couple times a month, it adds up. Even though reading is amazing, and it's one of the best ways to invest in yourself, it's still good to be mindful of how you use the resource. Now, I often will go to the library for books, and if I really want to buy a book, then I'll use a used bookstore website called Thrift Books. Otherwise, audiobooks are an excellent option, and you can even rent out audiobooks at the library. Number 5. Extra groceries. How many times have you gone to the grocery store only to find that you spend more than you intended? The truth is that cutting back on your grocery expenses is one of the best ways to save money. The sad part is that it's also one of the hardest things to cut back on, since we need to eat to survive. However, it is possible. Let me explain with a story. When my partner and I started living together, our grocery bills per month were about $550. For some, this may be a lot, and for some, it may be not. But to us, it seemed normal. However, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that we were losing a lot of perishable food. It seemed like every trip resulted in throwing away bell peppers that went bad, or strawberries we forgot about. To avoid this, I made a budget, and my partner made a meal plan for us to stick to. Once we really found our routine for this, we started to see how much we could save. In fact, we managed to save $150 every single month. Just imagine what you could do with an extra $150 a month. Number 6. Online shopping. Shopping has never been easier than it is now. With a tap and swipe, you can have access to a global online market where you can basically buy whatever you want from wherever you want. However, this convenience comes with a price, and that's excessive spending. To avoid this, get rid of all your saved cards in any online stores. Try to go out to a store and buy what you need instead of going online, and avoid temptations through impulse purchases by waiting. If you want something, do your best to make yourself wait an ample amount of time. I had a conversation with my partner recently about something I wanted, but I've decided to wait at least 3 months before considering the purchase. If I can do it, so can you. Number 7. Bottled water. When it comes to drinking, convenience always seems to be a key player. However, basing a purchase on convenience is a surefire way to waste your money. When you start to pay attention, you'll quickly realize, just as I did, that you spend a lot on convenience. For me, I spend a lot of money on bottled water, and I'm sure many of you do too. To counteract this expense, I ended up buying a reusable water bottle along with a water filtration system for my area. However, chances are that you have clean and drinkable tap water, which will make it an even cheaper option. With the extra money I saved from this, I made sure to always put it into savings. On top of that, reducing the amount of bottled water I use reduced the amount of waste I produced. And considering the state of the planet, it makes me feel good to lower my waste as much as possible. Number 8. Greeting cards. You may not be someone who buys cards all that often. Or maybe you're someone who buys them several times a year, especially if you have a big family. Regardless of the case, when you receive a card, how long do you think about that card? I can tell you from experience that when I receive a card, I'm grateful for the day I got it and I forget about it afterward. To me, this seems like a waste of money as it's so quickly forgotten. Now, I've opted for e-cards or even making my own cards depending on the situation. It's much cheaper and sometimes totally free in the case of e-cards, and it provides the exact same impact, sometimes even a better one. Another really cool thing is that with e-cards, you get animations and songs which can make the cards all the more meaningful. Number 9. Cable TV. I may be a bit old school, but I held on to cable networks for quite a while. I really enjoyed watching TV because sometimes the struggle of picking a movie on Netflix or Disney Plus was just a pain. I spent half the movie's length trying to find something to watch, only to end up on cable instead. However, my cable, it's extremely expensive, sitting somewhere between $50 and $100 per month. The worst part is that you don't utilize all the channels, but just a few, making the value pretty bad. When I decided to shift away from cable, I not only ended up saving hundreds of dollars a year, but I also freed up a lot more time for more useful things, like taking classes for things I enjoy and spending more time with friends and family instead of spending my money. Number 10. Junk food. Junk food is one of the easiest ways to spend money without really noticing it. This is because junk food individually doesn't cost all that much, but it's something that adds up. For example, buying soda, energy drinks, or chips and cookies every month takes a huge toll on your finances. Firstly, imagine removing the energy drinks entirely and focusing just on water. Now replace the chips and cookies with healthier options like fruits and veggies. And not only are you feeling physically better and healthier, but you're also saving a ton of money. One of the best things you can do is make sure you drink enough water, because oftentimes your hunger is actually masking your thirst. So if you find yourself hungry and craving junk food, drink a glass of water first and see how you feel after. Number 11. Gaming subscriptions. Music and movies aren't the only subscriptions out there. I'm sure there are some of you, like me, who've unfortunately paid for games in the past. With games already being addictive, it can be hard to avoid spending when you know it's going to get you further. Of course, a dollar here and there will quickly add up, and you'll realize how much money you're wasting. The best thing to do here is step away from the game for a while and replace these types of games with free games or single payment games. Sure, you may pay more once, but chances are you'll pay significantly less in the long run. Number 12. Branded products. Companies promote branded products by giving it a sense of superiority. Naturally, this makes the desire to buy them more pronounced. I've fallen into the trap before, but it's not really worth it. I realized through buying non-branded products, initially not by choice, but by necessity due to a tight budget. However, I realized that branded products and non-branded products really aren't that different. I actually found there to be an unobservable difference most of the time. So, if you're someone who still buys branded items, Take a chance and try buying the no-name version of it to compare. I'm sure you'll stop being a brand supporter after that.